In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth, and all that therein is. And the wisdom of the Almighty, He put man in dominion of all He has created. Some men discover purpose and live thereby, while some fell by the wayside. One of such men of valor who discover their purpose in life and destiny and live accordingly is John AYO OLADAPO, who was born on Wednesday, January 5, 1972, to the Oladapo family dynasty in Igbotako Osoro in Okitipupa local government area of Ondo State. Just like it was recorded about Jesus, John AYO OLADAPO also grew in wisdom and favor with God and man. He is a product of a relationship that traversed generations of great men and women.
Dr. AYO OLADAPO. Ó jẹ́ ọmọ kan tí ó fẹ́ràn mi láti kékeré wá, láti ìgbà tó ti rá ni ó ti fẹ́ràn mi.
Láti ilẹ̀ wá ló ti jẹ́ olú ọmọ fún wa. Ó ṣe dáadáa fún bàbá àti ìyá. Tí kò ń jẹ́ kí ìyá jẹ bàbá àti ìyá. Tó jẹ́ ọmọ dáadáa fún wa. Tó ń ṣe nǹkan tó yẹ kọ́mọ mẹ́ta mẹ́rin máa ṣe fún wa, òun nìkan máa ń ṣe fún wa. Ó ń tọ́jú bàbá, ó ń tọ́jú ìyá. Ó ń tọ́jú wa lóòrèkóòrè. Kò ń jẹ́ kí ìyàwó jẹ wá.
Tí mo bá lọ síta ńgbà náà lọ́hùn tí mo bá ń wọlé, ìṣe nínú ẹ̀ máa dùn tó mo máa fò mọ́ mi. Mo ti bímọ kan ṣáájú ẹ̀ tó jẹ́ ọkùnrin tí mo sọ ní Ayọ̀délé. Ọmọ yẹn ṣaláìsí. Ẹni tí máa bẹ́ tẹ̀lé wá ní òun. Èyí tó ṣaláìsí yẹn bí ìyẹn ṣe rí gan-an lòun náà dẹ̀ wá rí. Ìdí tí mo wá fi sọ òun yìí ní Ayọ̀rìndé nìyẹn, fún mímú ẹ̀ ní Ayọ̀rìndé.
The Igbotako-born John AYO OLADAPO had his elementary education and secondary education in both Igbotako and Akure, the Ondo State capital. These spanned from local authority primary school, Agbitu village, Igbotako, between 1978 and 1971. Baptist Day Primary School, Igbotako, between 1981 and 1984. Igbotako Community Grammar School, Igbotako, between 1985 and 1990. And Prospect High School, Akure.
I know Reverend AYO OLADAPO as one of the old students of Community Grammar School, Igbotako. And for the little time I know him, he has been supportive. And in the last inauguration that was done, he was so active. He contributed immensely to the success of the program. And apart from that, from information I gathered from people outside and in the community, he has been above board, responsible, dependable, disciplined, tolerant, and somebody that somebody can depend upon.
If I am to say, at least I have known him right away when we were in the university. We were together in the Ondo State University, Ado-Ekiti, now Ekiti State University, in the same department. We were in the same department, that is religious studies. While we were in school, we see him as a perfect gentleman. I use that language, that adjective, a perfect gentleman. Barely do you know whether this man is a reverend. It was later we got to know that he was a reverend in the Baptist church. Each time we had problem when we were in the university, we sought for his help. He gave us a very wise counsel. Back here is the coordinator, one of the coordinators that usher in the first executive of the Old Student Association of this noble institution. To us here, I mean to us in Community Grammar School, but as a school, we believe in him.
His insatiable quest for knowledge led him to the University of Ado-Ekiti, now Ekiti State University, and the University of Ibadan for higher degrees. He furthered his education at the Nigerian Baptist Theological Seminary, Ogbomoso, for Masters in Divinity and also a Master's degree in Arts from the University of Ibadan, before bagging a Doctor of Philosophy PhD in Christian Ethics at the Nigerian Baptist Theological Seminary, Ogbomoso.
I
have to thank God for all He has done, keeping me, ordering my steps. I see God live ordering my steps. God teaching me, telling me what to do at every stage in life. And that is what has kept me going to this present moment. I want to appreciate God in the life of my parents, who instill in us and the fear of God. I learned a lot of things from my father, who practically instilled fear of God in us and pays special attention to us in loving the Lord, serving the Lord, and doing things in the way of the Lord. Today, I attribute all that I've been to God, and especially to my father, who instilled discipline in me.
Mo ti rí àpẹẹrẹ aládarí lára ẹ̀ nígbà tó wà ní secondary school. Òun ni prefect ńgbà yẹn lọ́hùn. Òun ni leader man no war ńgbà yẹn ní school, leader man no war. Àti ìgbà yẹn ni mo ti mọ̀ pé yes, ọmọ yẹn máa jẹ́ aṣáájú.
Láti ilẹ̀ wa lọ́lọ́run ti ṣàfihàn ẹ̀, lọ́lọ́run ti ṣàfihàn ẹ̀. Kò sí nǹkan kan nígbà tó wà ní school, ẹ̀yìn fèèlì Ọlọ́run máa ń tọ́, tó máa ń tọ́, Ọlọ́run máa dáwọ́lé. Kò sí nǹkan tó bá dáwọ́lé tó jẹ́ pé ó bèlè.
Nígbà yẹn ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ nínú àwọn student ẹlẹgbẹ́ ẹ̀ ló máa ń wá sọ́dọ̀ ẹ̀ nígbà tó bá ti jáde school tó wá ń béèrè ìmọ̀ lọ́dọ̀ wọn. Leadership role tí ó wà lẹ́nu yìí àti kékeré ni ó ti bẹ̀rẹ̀.
I grew up to know my father being secretary, chairman, president of many organizations, and serving in different capacities. Anywhere he found himself, he is always one of those who are giving the pace, leading such organization. And when I was growing up too, and I begin to see this trait in me, anywhere I get to, people ask me to do this, do that. I can't this to my hands, commit this to my hands, ask me to do this, ask me to do that. I learned a lot of him from that man. I learned keeping record, paying attention to details, and being faithful in any assignment you are asked to do. Because he kept on saying every time that whatsoever you are asked to do, be faithful to God and be faithful to that organization that has assigned you to do whatever you are doing. And today, I see that helping me as one of the major things that I see that has been keeping me going.
It is safe to say that God's grace, mercy, anointing, coupled with education, serve as catalysts to the growth of John AYO OLADAPO spiritually, ministerially, administratively, and in the facets of life. He became the president of Ondo State Baptist Conference in 2010 and held the position till the year 2020.
I know Reverend Dr. AYO OLADAPO to be a Christian, and not just an ordinary Christian, but a fervent and committed Christian. And no wonder this quality has brought him so far. This quality has placed him in position of responsibility to the point that while he was coming into the office of the conference president then in 2010, some of us were bold enough to recommend him for that leadership position because we know him to possess some leadership quality. During his time, he has been able to raise Ondo State Baptist Conference to an enviable status. We know Dr. AYO OLADAPO to be a leader and a cool-headed leader. I know him to be a forthright man, an open-minded man, somebody who is very open, who speaks his mind. Before I round up, let me quickly say, I took over this position from him. I took over this position of leadership, the leadership of Ondo State Baptist Conference from him. And it was each free. There was no any trouble, no problem. And the relationship is still very smooth compared to in other organizations where the predecessor and the successors their enemies.
I first met Reverend Dr. John AYO OLADAPO in 1993 when he reported at First Baptist Church Akure as a fresh pastor coming from Baptist College of Theology, Oyo. He came to serve as associate to Reverend late Reverend Abayomi Ajayigbe. Months after he landed, I believe Reverend Ajayigbe identified the evangelistic trait in Reverend John AYO OLADAPO. And for that reason, Reverend Abayomi Ajayigbe allowed him to blossom in the evangelism area by making him the church evangelism pastor. He was only 22 years old then, but God used him mightily. Within a couple of years of becoming the evangelism minister, God had used him to plant not less than 5 churches within Akure. The things that impressed me most about Reverend Dr. John AYO OLADAPO are, 1, his doggedness. He doesn't allow anything to distract him. Once he's determined to do something, he goes ahead to do it. So I just pray that our younger ones will borrow a leaf from him, learn from his doggedness, learn from his focus on God. Reverend Dr. John AYO OLADAPO knew his God early in life. He was focused on his God, and God has strengthened him to do exploits. We are all witnesses to some of the exploits God used him to do. He became the first full-time conference secretary. He was the first to move into the residence, even though it was half completed then. God used him to establish many churches. God used him to become the first Baptist minister in Ondo State to become CAN president.
And he also became the chairman, Christian Association of Nigeria, Ondo State in 2016, a position he holds till date.
I want to really thank God who graciously allowed me to cross the path of Reverend Dr. AYO OLADAPO, Ondo State Christian Association chairman. This man, when he came on board newly, he did something that I could describe as an exceptional display of wisdom. The first things he did, I wouldn't know what he had heard about the prayer altar, but the first thing he did was to seek, you see, for the spiritual support of the altar. He went to the extent of bringing the entire ESCO for prayers, and he quickly adopted the altar as the prayer arm of CAN. So whenever there is any emergency, whenever there are issues, to be tackled in the place of prayer, he will quickly beckon on us. As for his leadership, I have always said it anywhere that since the inception of CAN in Ondo State, I have been privileged to work with all of the leaders. You see, some not at a very close range, but I think even as a keen observer of events, you see, aside Baba Bonigi, who started CAN in Ondo State, one leader that has come on board, who have displayed exceptional wisdom, great intelligence, sound sense of judgment, is Reverend Dr. AYO OLADAPO. I'm always amazed the way he handles complex and intricate issues, you see, anytime, they arise. So, for me, Reverend AYO OLADAPO brought dynamism, activism, and purposefulness to the leadership of CAN in Ondo State. During his time, you see, CAN really came alive. In every nook and cranny of Ondo State, you will know that can exist in Ondo State.
Reverend Dr. AYO OLADAPO is somebody I respect so much. One, is a super administrator, and is a cool-headed man, and is a man of his words, even well lettered. Apart from the educational background of his calling, is somebody I can beat my chest for anytime, any moment, anywhere, any day. To me, is a complete gentleman, and when it comes to his calling, is a very superman, especially in teaching the word of the Lord.
Láti bí ọdún mẹ́fà jẹ́ fẹ́ pé báyìí tí mo ti mọ̀ wọ́n, mi ò tí ì rí ìwà kan tó hù bá ṣe súnmọ́ra tó láyé tí mo lè sọ pé eléyìí ò sínú Bible. In fact, ó yà mí lẹ́nu gidi gan. Nínú ìṣe, nínú ọ̀yàyà, nínú ìtọrẹ, nínú gbogbo ọ̀nà, Ọlọ́run fi ta wọ́n lọ́rẹ. So Ọ̀dàpọ̀ jẹ́ Dr. Oladapo jẹ́ tí kò máa rọ́pa. Ó dẹ̀ fẹ́ òtítọ́. Ó máa ń fẹ́ òtítọ́. Ó máa ń wá àwọn tóun lè gbẹ́kẹ̀lé tó jẹ́ olótìtọ́ èèyàn láti lò. Òun ló jẹ́ kó make a success lórí CAN. Àkàyè àwọn CAN chairman tó ti jẹ́ ó ní nọ́mbà. Bí àkókò tí wọ́n ẹ̀rí pé bí a ṣe lọ́jọ́ orí tó agbọ́jọ́ orí sẹ́gbẹ́ kan a tì wọ́n lẹ́yìn àwa pẹ̀lú wọn àyẹ̀rí fún kankan. Tá bá sọ̀rọ̀ ìtẹríba gbogbo èèyàn ló tẹríba fún. Gbogbo èèyàn.
Apart from being a well sought after preacher of the gospel, Reverend Dr. John AYO OLADAPO is also a prolific writer with special bias for marriage and family life, hence the establishment of the Center for Blissful Home Initiative with testimonies of impacts on homes and marriages.
My husband, Reverend Dr. John AYO OLADAPO, has been a very loving husband since the time we started the journey. He has been a man of the people. Even right from that time, everybody would have loved to come around him. He's a prayer warrior, and so you will see people going to him for prayers. I want to appreciate God because since we have come together, I have never regretted coming in contact with him. He's a frank man. He's a man that speaks his mind. He doesn't hide his feelings. And so at times, one may feel he's a tough person. But I thank God that he has never been an hypocrite. He speaks what is in his mind. He makes you to know what he likes and what he doesn't like. He has been a very nice husband, a caring one. He loves his family so dearly, to the extent that if he is traveling and he tells you he's going for 3 days, just expect him after the second. Expect him on the second day, because he likes coming home on time. Doesn't like staying too far from the family. So he's a very loving husband who knows his responsibilities and who takes up his responsibilities and performs the necessary duties as a good father, as a good husband, and as a good friend. He's my friend, he's my confidant. I confide in him in many of my issues, in all my issues, and he gives me advice on what to do. And at times when I give him my own advice too, he takes to advice. Very accommodating, he's very loving. He treats my parents like his own parents. My sisters and brothers like his own brothers and his sisters. And so he's a loving person, and everybody loves to be around him.
My dad is a wonderful personality. He's a person who so much cherishes his children. The particular thing that amazes me about him is that he's a father to all girls, like as you can see, all girls. But he hasn't for once make it obvious that I give birth to all girls and like make us look as if we are worthless, sort of as the Yoruba culture always upholds girl children as not being worthwhile. But he has He's a person who has so much invested in us and wants the best out of us. So he hasn't for once looked down on us that, oh, I gave birth to all girls. What would they turn out to be? What would be their outcome? But he so much believes in us, believes in our dreams, and he has always been supportive.
My dad's a disciplinarian. He knows how to play with his children and at the same time how to discipline them whenever they do something wrong. My dad, he's a man that sets examples for people to follow. He's someone that I would love to follow his examples that he has laid down.
My dad is a loving man. He's so kind to his children and wife. He loves us all and does anything we want.
There's one thing that inspires me most about Daddy. He did not look at his background. He did not allow his background to actually, because it was coming from a very local area, and looking to what he has attained now is actually a very determined man. Because for someone to get to where he is now, it's just with God's grace and determination. So I've learned that from him, that your determination is what matters the most, and putting God first is what matters the most.
He's a man that does not allow laziness. He's a man that invests a lot.
The years in the life of a man are not as important as the life in those years. For Reverend Dr. John AYO OLADAPO, it's been 50 years of God's grace and mercy, and he says, to God be the glory.
I've seen God really practically. God has been so good. God has been so faithful. God has been so encouraging in all my ways. I cannot but give God the glory. For turning 50, I say thank you, Lord, for giving me the grace. And I believe that the next 50, the Lord will still sustain me and give me a greater platform to serve Him, to do things that belongs to Him. My wife has been my pillar in all areas of life. I must especially thank her for standing by me. She's my chief editor, and she looks into every of my writings and criticizes me a lot when I need to put dot here, I need to put comma here, I need to do this, I need to do that. So I must be grateful to her, giving me support in the ministry, supporting me in all areas of life, and giving me an enabling environment to thrive. I must especially appreciate all those God has used at one time or the other to mentor me, to breathe on me, to guide me. I will not forget at this moment Reverend John Emma Ambromare, the former conference secretary of Bende Baptist Conference, who was at the time our director of academic affairs when I was in the training in the pastor school. He believed so much in me, even when some people did not believe in me as a young boy then, because I entered into this seminary training at quite a younger age. He picked me up, gave me several assignments, gave me several things to do, disciple me in one way or the other. Every now and then, almost every day, he will give me at least several chapters of the scripture to read, and I must write exam on all those chapters. And looking at my performances, he looked back one day and said, I see you as one of our leaders in years to come. That don't relent, keep it up. And each time I look back today and I remember that prophecy he made there, I cannot but give thanks to God and appreciate Reverend John Emma Ambromare. I must also appreciate Reverend Abayomi Ajegbe. He taught me the act of leadership, the act of discipline in leadership. I served with him from 1993, my first full-time pastoral assignment after the 91-92 training. I served with him, and in him I could see dedication, commitment, and he exposed me to a lot of administrative procedure, and which is still keeping me going today. I must appreciate God for his life and the man who baptized me, and through whom a message I became a Christian. Reverend Dr. Amos Omorishemi did a lot in my life too. This is another man that picked me practically from a cradle and watched over me, and I thank God today he's still living. Baba is still kicking and is still doing well to the glory of God.
Oladapo was one of the members of Igbotako Baptist Church. This time I went there to give lecture, then to minister in that church. During my menstruation, he became a Christian, and then he developed very good, and then it's one of those 15 Christians who were baptized. And since that time, he has been performing well. I knew him very well, very honest, obedient, and then hard-working person. He was the one who made the arrangements for the conference to have a land where we have as a millennium city now. He's a man who is not afraid. When other people are afraid of the task ahead, he's not afraid at all. He worked hard.
At 50, I look back and I must give God the glory. I must return all glory unto him. At this moment, I must appreciate him for all that he has done in my life. To God be the glory, great things he has done.
You're amazing, dear Lord. You are amazing, dear Lord. You're amazing, dear Lord. You are amazing, dear Lord. You amaze me, dear Lord. You amaze me, dear Lord. You are amazing, dear Lord. You're amazing, dear Lord. You are amazing.